There we go. Hi and welcome to this getting started video for Blenda. My name is Mitko and in this video I'm going to take you through everything you need to know in order to start using our plugin in your projects. Blenda is a lightweight and intuitive sound mixing and management system for Unity. You can use it to create sound effects and music and control them very easily via code. Mixes are created inside the Unity editor and are controlled during runtime using simple commands. The way our plugin works is by creating and controlling audio sources. It uses Unity's built-in audio system so you can take advantage of all sound features that Unity offers. So let's get started. Oh, and don't worry, my face will be gone in 3, 2, 1. The Blender system provides a single component that does all the magic for us. This component is called the Audio Blender and we can get it into the scene by creating a new empty game object and adding the Audio Blender component to it. As soon as we add the component, you'll notice that a new child object has been created under the game object and its name is sequence. This sequence object corresponds to this sequence here. So the question arises, what is a sequence? A sequence in Blender is a sound mix. It is a collection of sounds that have been mixed and grouped under the same object. When we start adding sounds to the mix, new sound objects will be created under this sequence object here. So let's start with some simple renaming so that we can find our way around more easily. I renamed the main object to Audio Mix, and I can rename the sequence by right-clicking the sequence inside the Audio Blender component and choosing Rename. In order to start adding sounds to the mix, I need to expand this system. I can do this by clicking on it with my left mouse button. Now the sequence has a bunch of properties that you need to be aware of. This is the duration of the sequence in seconds. Right now the sequence is 3 seconds long, and so our audio mix will be 3 seconds long. Time is the current time along the mix. It usually starts at 0 and works its way up to the duration value. So in this case it's 3, but if I increase the duration and set it to 6, the time is going to go up to 6. Time can be handled either automatically by the sequence, or you can handle time yourself using scripts. The play trigger defines a condition that has to be met in order for this sequence to start playing. By default, when you create a new Audio Blender component, the sequence in it is going to have a play trigger set to awake, which means that it is going to play automatically as soon as the Audio Blender plays. And the Audio Blender is set to play on awake, which means that as soon as I play the scene, this sequence is going to also play. I can set the play trigger to none, and in this case I'm going to have to play the sequence using a script. Or I can set it to play after the previous sequence. This is when we have more than one sequences. For example, if I add a new sequence here, I can set it to play after the previous. This means that after this mix has finished playing, this one is going to play. And finally, I can set a mix to play with the previous mix, which means that these two sequences, or mixes, those terms are interchangeable, will play simultaneously. I can also set a delay for the mix. So for example, if you want to play this mix with a little bit of offset, you can set it here. And finally, there are 3 types of sequences: a default, a loop, and a custom sequence. The default sequence will play once and is going to stop. Then the next sequence can play. A loop sequence can loop a couple of times, or if you set the loop to 0, it is going to loop indefinitely. Keep in mind that in infinite loop mode, mixes never finish. So if you have another mix after this one, it will never play unless you stop the mix using code. And if you set the loop count to a positive number, this sequence is going to loop this number of times and then is going to finish, and then the mix can continue. And of course each mix has a volume and a pitch slider, and these sliders act as a volume multipliers, and they multiply with the master volume and the master pitch here. You can set a mix to fade in and fade out, and you can also control this fade in and fade out by a curve. So let's finally add some sounds to the mix. I'm going to delete this sequence here and use my mix sequence in order to add some sounds. Now in order to add sounds, we need to open the track editor. This is done by clicking the Open Editor button inside the sequence. This is the track editor, and inside I have a single track. I also have a timeline which goes up to 6 seconds, which is the duration here. If I increase or decrease the duration, this is also going to be seen inside the track editor. So I have a couple of sounds here, and they are pretty random. I have a laser cannon, a balloon blowing up sound, and a power-up ray. I got these sounds from Sound Bible, and I wanted to use them to create a unique laser blast sound out of these 3 sounds. 2 laser sounds and a balloon. This shall be interesting. In order to add a sound clip to the mix, you just take the sound clip from the assets view and drag it onto the track in the track editor. Right away you'll see that a new object with the name of the sound has been created inside the scene under the My Mix component. And if I click it, you can see that it has an audio source with the sound. Blenda is going to use this source and control it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close the track editor, go to my audio mix, set the play trigger to none, and play the scene. Of course, nothing will happen, but if I open the track editor and hit the play button here, you will see that the mix is going to play. That's great, but it's not really what I'm after. So I need to add more sounds to the mix, and in order to do so, I'm just going to drag the other sounds inside the track editor. Now I can add them to the same track here, or I can create new tracks and add them. Then I can change the sounds track however I want. Keep in mind that I can also intersect the sound inside a single track, but I rather not do so because it is getting harder to edit. So for me it's a lot easier to manage sounds when they are on separate tracks. So here I have a power up ray sound and a balloon blowing up sound, which you can hear how it sounds. Now I want to combine these two sounds to make a laser charging sound. Now first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the power up ray and I'm going to hit the left square bracket button on the keyboard. This is going to snap the left end of the sound clip to the time tracker, and the time tracker I can move it by left clicking inside the time track here and moving my mouse. So if I move the time tracker here, then select the power up ray and hit the left square bracket, this is going to move the sound clip to the right side of the tracker, and I can do the same with the right square bracket. But because I set the tracker at the 0 time mark, I can select the clip and hit the left square bracket, and this is going to place the clip right at the beginning. Then I'm going to move the balloon blowing up sound a little bit closer to the beginning too. So let's take a listen at this power up ray sound once again. It goes up and then it goes down, and I only want the going up part here. So in order to trim the sound, what I need to do is I need to place my cursor at the right edge of the sound clip and then click and drag the sound clip in order to trim it. But the problem is that this now will cut abruptly. So in order to fix this issue, I need to fade the sound in. Now what I'm going to do, because I need a little bit more precision, is I'm going to use this slider here to zoom in, and now I can work a little bit more precisely. So in order to make a fade effect, I can press Alt on the keyboard and then dragging the right edge inwards. You can see that a curve appears, and this curve is how the volume is controlled. So if I move this away and play the sequence, you will see that the volume of this clip fades out towards the end. Let's see how it sounds without the fade out effect. I will hit Alt again. This is going to display this vertical line here, and I can drag it back to where it was. Definitely not so good. And I can also control this fade out curve by right clicking on the clip, selecting settings, and in the fade out, editing the curve to my liking. This is also going to update the visualization of the curve. Keep in mind that changes to mixes are not saved inside play mode. We are only using it to preview the sound mix. Our team is currently researching the possibilities of making it possible to preview sound mixes inside the editor without hitting the play button. So now that we have this sound set up, we can add in the balloon sound. And I'm going to do the same for it. I'm going to trim it and then fade it out. So the whole thing is going to sound something like... I'm not exactly happy with it, so I'm just going to extend it like this. So this is a nice build-up effect, but we need the firing effect too. So let's see what we have here. We have this laser cannon sound, which sounds like this. So it has its own build-up effect, which we don't need. And what we're going to do is, we're going to add this sound to the mix. And of course trim the first part of the sound. In order to make sure that this sound doesn't start abruptly, I'm going to also set a fade in for this sound. And this is done again with the Alt button and left dragging. So the sound mix now sounds like... But I'm still not quite happy with it. I think that this sound can be a little bit longer. So what I can do about it is, I can right click it, settings, and then set the pitch to something like 0.75. And then of course, I'm going to extend out the clip And this is it! I just made a unique sound mix using Blenda and 3 sound files. And I can use these sound files independently in my project. So this saves time for me, but also memory, because I don't need to create separate sound files for each sound effect I want to achieve. I can use a modular approach to sound design. Now, a couple of useful things you need to know before we can continue. You already know how to create new tracks by clicking the Add Track button, but you can also copy existing sound clips and paste them. In order to do so, you can click on the desired clip or clips, you can copy multiple clips. Press Ctrl C, click inside the track you want to paste the clip in, and press Ctrl V. You can also do this by right-clicking on the clip and selecting copy, and then right-clicking on the desired track and say paste. Also, each track has its own settings. If you right-click on a track, you can rename it. Right-clicking is also the way to delete tracks, but make sure they're empty first. And each track has its own settings, which currently are a volume slider and a mute checkbox. The volume of a track is also displayed using this green progress bar beneath the name. Okay, so let's finish up this mix and move on. What I'm going to do is add a new sequence, and I'm going to add this sound file inside it, and make sure that the whole sequence can contain the sound file, that the sequence duration is not shorter than the sound file. Right now it isn't, but if the sequence duration was shorter than the sound file, what I can do to fix it is right click on the sound clip, go to fit, and then select fit sequence to. This is going to wrap the entire sequence around this file. So this sound file with the interesting name of no sounds like this.
No! No! No!
Okay, so what my idea is to create a new sequence which will play after the previous sequence, after the laser blast sequence, in order to give the impression that somebody has been shot or something like that. It will already work out of the box, but what I want to do is add some delay for a bit more dramatic effect. So I'm going to add a delay of 0.75 seconds, and then I'm going to play. And you can see that this sequence also has a play, pause, and stop buttons. These buttons are actually debug buttons for the editor, so that you can test your sounds with. I need to play my laser mix first, so I'm going to select my mix and hit play. Now the problem here is that the sequence of my mix is a little bit longer, so the dramatic effect is a little bit way too dramatic. So what I'm gonna do is open the editor and trim the duration. I don't need to open the editor in order to trim the duration, but in order to see where the sounds end, I do need to have it open. So let's play it again.
No! No! No!
And there we go. Okay, so this is how a single one-time sound mix can be created. But what about continuous sounds like music and environment sounds? Well, Blender can do that too. Let's create a new object and call it Heartbeat. Now I just downloaded a new sound from Sound Bible, God bless this site. And I'm going to add Audio Blender component once again to it, get this newly created sequence, open it in the editor, and get this heartbeat sound I just downloaded from Sound Bible. Oh, and this sound sounds like this. Now you already know the drill. Right click, fit sequence to. But the issue with this sound is that it is still a one-time sound. It is about 50 seconds long, and if I hit play, the sequence will play for 15 seconds and then will stop. So what I can do about it is first I can go to the sequence and set the type to be loop. Now I can loop it indefinitely. So let's open the editor and set the time, well, somewhere around here, so that you can check out how the loop works. Now I'm going to play the game and open the editor. And you can see that as soon as the timer mark reaches the end, it starts again from the beginning. But my idea is to make this sound representative of your player's current health. And in order to do this, I'm not going to use the loop type, but I'm going to use the custom type. The custom sequence type will not control the time automatically. So if I play the game and open the editor, you'll see that the timer mark stays at the same place, and the sound kind of repeats only this portion here. This is because the sound is set to default. The sound can also be set to loop. And in order to do this, you can hit settings and then set the sound to loop. A fun fact, if you have a sound set to loop, you can also loop it inside the track view like this. So the idea here is to increase the pitch of this heartbeat sound. What I can do is, I can just control the pitch using a script. But if I want more control over the pitch, what I can do is add a pitch envelope and a volume envelope to this sound clip. In order to do so, click the right mouse button, select settings once again, and in the configure clip window, check the volume envelope and the pitch envelope. Now keep in mind that as soon as you enable the pitch envelope, this is going to happen because the pitch right now is set to 0. So in order to fix this, click the first preset, which will make the curve even with a value of 1 at the beginning and a value of 1 at the end. Same goes for the volume. Go to the volume envelope and click the first preset. Now we can edit the pitch envelope, and this is also going to edit the sound. So let's add new points and start increasing their values. So I'm going to do something like this. The heart rate is gradually going to start going up, and then at some point you'll be so hurt that your heart rate is going to drop. I'm not sure if biology works like that at all, but let's say it does. And then right when you're about to die, your heart rate is going to blast off in space and then you die. And I'm going to do something similar with the volume. So you can preview the envelopes inside the clip here, and you can kind of get a picture of how pitch and volume are going to be controlled throughout time. So what I did now is I'm basically controlling the pitch and the volume using the time. So this sound is set to loop, and if I move the time, it is not going to change its position. I'm not going to change anything about the sound. It is going to keep looping, but if I move the time slider, what is going to change is the pitch and the volume according to these two curves we just set up. So check it out. Time is at the 0 mark, and I'm going to start moving it up. I feel like I need to increase this in order to have a better effect. And the same principle is used in our examples package, where we have vehicle sounds and environment sounds set up to work in this exact same manner. This is one of my favorite examples because it shows most of the things that Blenda can do. We have a vehicle here, and we have 3 sequences. We have the start sequence, which holds the start sound, and it's of default type, which means that this sound is just going to play once. And then the run sound comes in. It plays with the start sound, but with a 0.7 second offset. And it's a custom sequence, just like the one with the heartbeat I just made. And again, we control the sequence using the time. And finally we have the stop sequence, which holds a car stop sound. It will never play unless the run sequence has been interrupted with a script. So let's see how this works in action. Here is the track editor for the run sequence, and now I'm going to press space, which is going to trigger the start sequence and then the run sequence. And now the run sequence is running. This is going to control the time over the sequence. There we go. I press space again, and we shut down the engine. Thank you for watching this getting started video. If you'd like to get more in depth with the plugin, make sure to check out our user documentation, which is included inside the Blenda folder, and it's under the name of user manual PDF. We are making a new video on how to control Blenda using scripts, but you can also check out the user manual, and you'll find all the API calls available to you during runtime.